Today, we uncover the story of these people who took selfies with animals and how it ended in disaster, from a manager who stepped too close to lions to a supervisor who leaned too far from his safari jeep. But first, we start in Montana, where one freelance photographer's quest for the perfect grizzly bear selfie turned a mountain adventure into a nightmare. It was August 10th, 2017, when Ivan Priss made a decision that would cost him everything in the pristine wilderness of Glacier National Park, Montana. The 31-year-old freelance travel photographer had been driving through the Rocky Mountains with his two closest friends on what was supposed to be a week-long adventure documenting America's most spectacular landscapes. The morning sun cast golden rays across the glacier-carved valleys as their rental car pulled into a roadside meadow where wild berries grew in abundance among the tall grass, creating what appeared to be the perfect natural studio. Ivan's companions, Mark Dalton and Chris Moreno, had grown accustomed to their friend's relentless pursuit of the perfect wildlife shot for his travel blog. Mark, a cautious 33-year-old software engineer, constantly reminded the group about park safety regulations, while Chris, a 30-year-old fitness trainer, was busy recording their entire trip for social media content. The trio had been inseparable since college, but Ivan's competitive nature about capturing viral wildlife photos often pushed boundaries that made his friends uncomfortable. Fresh bear tracks pressed deep into the soft earth near the berry bushes should have been warning enough, but Ivan's thrill-seeking personality drove him forward when other tourists were already retreating to their vehicles. The park's warning signs were clear: maintain at least 100 yards distance from all bears. Rangers had posted these regulations throughout Glacier National Park after decades of dangerous encounters, but Ivan saw only opportunity where others saw risk. The meadow stretched before them like a natural amphitheater, with berry-laden bushes creating the perfect backdrop for what he believed would be his most viral photograph yet. Grizzly bears are among North America's most formidable predators, weighing up to 800 pounds and capable of running 35 miles per hour despite their massive size. These powerful omnivores possess devastating strength, with forelimbs capable of delivering crushing blows. Their bite force is estimated between 975 and 1,160 pounds per square inch, strong enough to crack bone and crush dense tissue with ease. During berry season, grizzlies enter hyperphagia, consuming up to 20,000 calories daily to prepare for winter hibernation. When disturbed during feeding, their defensive instincts can trigger sudden aggressive responses that can prove fatal to humans who venture too close. The large grizzly bear feeding among the bushes had been peacefully foraging when Ivan made his fatal decision. Stepping past the roadside barrier with his phone held outward, he walked directly into the meadow while approaching within 30 to 40 feet of the massive animal. Chris continued recording from the safety of their vehicle, while Mark remained frozen near the car, watching in horror as his friend turned his back to frame the bear behind him in what he hoped would be the perfect selfie. The bear's massive head lifted instantly, its dark eyes locking onto the intruder who had violated its feeding space. Without hesitation, the grizzly charged across the meadow with terrifying speed, its heavy paws thundering against the earth as it closed the distance in seconds. Ivan barely had time to react before the enormous animal collided with him. The bear's powerful forelimbs struck Ivan and knocked him violently to the ground, the impact echoing across the meadow. Before he could react, the grizzly was on top of him, its immense weight pinning him beneath its bulk. The bear lunged downward, biting toward the head and upper back while raking with its claws, a typical defensive mauling response at close range, the force fracturing ribs and tearing deep wounds as Ivan struggled beneath the crushing weight. The mauling did not end instantly. The grizzly continued its defensive assault, biting and clawing while Ivan remained on the ground, the attack lasting long enough for the bear to fully neutralize the threat. Witnesses later described the assault as lasting several long seconds before Ivan stopped moving, after which the bear stayed over him briefly, huffing and pacing in tight circles, a common defensive behavior. Only after the victim lay motionless did the animal slowly back away toward the berry bushes, Park rangers later recovered Ivan's body near the attack site, confirming that massive trauma and severe internal bleeding caused his death within minutes, rather than instantly, consistent with injuries seen in close-range grizzly attacks. The investigation revealed that Ivan had violated multiple park safety protocols, approaching far closer than regulations allowed, while the bear was feeding in its natural habitat. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the travel photography community, with many of Ivan's followers expressing disbelief that someone experienced with wildlife could make such a fatal error in judgment. His family requested privacy during their grief, while park officials used the incident to reinforce the importance of maintaining safe distances from wildlife. Ivan Priss's story was a reminder of how quickly nature's most powerful predators can turn deadly when humans cross invisible boundaries. For Mia Glint, it wasn't the mountains of Montana that called to her adventurous spirit, but the vast savannas of South Africa, where another apex predator was about to prove that even the king of beasts shows no mercy to those who venture too close. It was August 3rd, 2016, when Mia Glint stepped out of her rental car into the sweltering heat of Kruger National Park, South Africa, unaware that she was about to become another tragic statistic in one of Africa's most dangerous wildlife reserves. The 24-year-old retail assistant manager from Manchester had saved for 2 years to afford this dream safari with her boyfriend Tyler Baines, a 26-year-old mechanic who shared her passion for adventure but lacked experience with African wildlife safety protocols. The couple had been driving through Kruger's vast wilderness on a self-guided safari, following dusty dirt roads through acacia-dotted savanna where the afternoon sun beat down mercilessly. Mia's Instagram account was filled with wildlife photos from their journey, each post gathering hundreds of likes from followers who envied her African adventure. She was an enthusiastic traveler who documented her experiences, always searching for the perfect shot to capture the raw beauty of the natural world. Earlier that morning, other vehicles had reported lions resting near this stretch of road, and park signs throughout Kruger were clear about the most fundamental safety rule: remain inside vehicles at all times. Rangers repeated this message during park orientation, explaining that stepping outside meant entering the territory of apex predators. Warning signs were posted every few kilometers, showing graphic reminders of what happens to visitors who ignore these life-saving rules. Several lions were lying in tall golden grass, roughly 60 yards from the dirt road, when Mia made her fatal decision. The cats appeared relaxed in the afternoon heat, their tawny bodies barely visible among the sun-bleached vegetation. Tyler stood beside their open car door, camera in hand, capturing what he believed were safe photographs from the required distance. But for Mia, the distance wasn't close enough for the dramatic selfie she envisioned. African lions are among the continent's most powerful predators, with adult males weighing up to 420 pounds and females reaching 280 pounds of muscle and lethal instinct. These hunters can sprint up to 50 miles per hour in short bursts, relying on stealth and explosive acceleration to ambush prey. Their claws grip and tear flesh, while their powerful jaws clamp onto prey with devastating strength. Ignoring Tyler's warning, Mia walked several steps farther from the vehicle towards the grass to improve the angle of her selfie. She crouched slightly while holding her phone outward, trying to frame the distant lions behind her. That small movement, lowering herself and moving farther from the car, made her appear smaller and more vulnerable against the open savanna. Tyler continued taking pictures from beside the car, unaware that one lioness had begun moving silently through the tall grass. The predator advanced slowly, keeping low as it stalked through the vegetation. Its tawny coat blended seamlessly with the dried grass as it crept closer in careful stages. By the time the predator was within roughly 10 meters, Mia remained completely focused on her phone camera, adjusting angles to ensure the lions were visible in the background. The crouched posture and distance from the vehicle triggered the lioness's hunting instincts, presenting a profile that resembled vulnerable prey. The attack came with explosive suddenness as the lioness burst from the grass in a blur of muscle and deadly intent. After stalking close, the predator charged forward, covering the final distance in powerful strides before launching toward Mia. The impact slammed into her with devastating force, sending her crashing to the ground as nearly 280 pounds of predator struck with overwhelming momentum. Instead of crushing bone, the lioness clamped its jaws tightly around Mia's throat in a classic predatory kill bite. The powerful grip compressed the trachea and carotid arteries, cutting off airflow and blood supply within seconds. Mia struggled briefly beneath the weight of the animal as the predator maintained the suffocating hold while pinning her to the ground. Within moments, Mia's movements slowed as oxygen deprivation caused rapid unconsciousness. The lioness kept the throat hold for several seconds longer, ensuring the prey stopped moving before loosening its grip. The predator's powerful forelegs pressed down across her shoulders, preventing any chance of escape, while the fatal grip remained locked in place. The lion then dragged the motionless body several feet toward the grass, following instincts to move prey away from the road. Only when nearby vehicles approached with engines roaring did the lioness release its grip and retreat into the vegetation, leaving behind a scene of horror. Park rangers arrived within roughly 20 minutes, but Mia was already beyond help. Investigators later determined that death was most consistent with rapid suffocation and vascular compression from the throat bite. Kruger officials used the tragedy to reinforce their safety protocols, emphasizing that the park's rules exist to prevent exactly this type of avoidable death. The incident sent shockwaves through the travel community, with many questioning how someone could ignore such basic safety guidelines. Mia's family requested privacy while grieving their devastating loss, though they later supported park efforts to educate visitors about wildlife safety. Mia Glint's story served as a brutal reminder that Africa's apex predators show no mercy to those who venture beyond the safety of their vehicles. For Karen Trask, it wasn't the dry savannas that called to her, but the lush riverbanks of Zambia, where another predator lurked beneath the murky waters. It was June 11, 2018, when Karen Trask made a decision that would prove fatal along the muddy banks of the Luangwa River in Zambia, where murky waters concealed one of Africa's most dangerous animals. The 38-year-old travel blogger had built a successful online following documenting wildlife encounters across the continent, always pushing boundaries to capture dramatic photographs that kept her audience engaged. She was traveling with a wildlife photography tour group led by experienced safari guide Samuel Briggs, who had spent over 15 years navigating the treacherous waters of the Luangwa Valley. The group had been following the meandering river for hours, searching for perfect shots of hippos and crocodiles that called these wetlands home. Karen's determination to capture rare wildlife photos had earned her recognition in travel photography circles, but it also drove her to take risks that more cautious photographers avoided. The Luangwa River stretched before them like a brown ribbon, cutting through lush landscape, its banks lined with thick reeds and patches of sticky mud. Samuel had repeatedly warned the group that hippos were territorial animals responsible for more human deaths in Africa than any other large mammal, explaining that these deceptively docile-looking creatures became extremely aggressive when humans ventured too close to their aquatic domain. Several hippos were visible surfacing near the shoreline, their massive heads breaking the water's surface as they monitored the approaching humans with growing suspicion. The guide's warnings about maintaining safe distances seemed to fall on deaf ears as Karen focused intently on the photographic opportunities before her. Hippopotamuses are among Africa's most lethal animals, with adult bulls weighing up to 4,000 pounds and possessing one of the most powerful bite forces in the animal kingdom at around 1,800 pounds per square inch. These massive semi-aquatic mammals can run up to 30 miles per hour on land despite their bulky appearance, and their enormous jaws contain razor-sharp canine teeth that can reach 12 to 20 inches in total length, including the root, with the visible portion typically around 10 to 12 inches. Hippos are fiercely territorial, especially around water sources, and will attack anything they perceive as a threat. Their massive mouths can open to roughly 150 degrees, creating a gaping maw capable of crushing bone with devastating force. Karen stepped onto the muddy bank while holding her phone outward, positioning herself for what she believed would be the perfect riverside selfie. The wet clay squelched beneath her feet as she moved closer to the water's edge, where a large hippo had surfaced approximately 30 feet away. Samuel called out warnings from higher ground, but Karen remained focused on adjusting her camera angle to capture the massive animal in the background. The water near the bank suddenly churned as the hippo shifted in the shallows, its broad back briefly visible just beneath the surface. Instead of gliding slowly, the massive animal remained mostly submerged, watching the intruder from only a short distance away. Karen continued standing at the water's edge, completely absorbed in framing the perfect photograph, while the territorial giant assessed the human presence that had entered its domain. Without warning, the hippo burst from the shallow water with explosive force, its massive body surging onto the muddy bank as water cascaded from its enormous frame. The territorial bull charged several heavy strides toward Karen, its mouth opening wide to reveal the terrifying expanse of its cavernous jaws lined with thick ivory tusks. Karen had no time to react before the hippo's massive head struck her with devastating force. The hippo's enormous jaws slammed into Karen's torso in a crushing bite, the impact instantly fracturing multiple ribs and causing catastrophic internal injuries. The animal's powerful tusks tore through flesh and bone as the incredible bite pressure compressed her chest cavity beyond survivable limits. Instead of holding her like a predator, the hippo jerked its head upward and violently tossed her body aside, the brutal motion inflicting massive trauma before she collapsed onto the muddy riverbank. The territorial giant snorted loudly and swung its massive head once more, as if ensuring the threat had been neutralized, before turning and retreating back toward the water. Within seconds, the enormous animal disappeared again into the murky shallows, where the rest of the pod remained nearby. Samuel and other guides immediately pulled Karen's body away from the shoreline, but the massive trauma inflicted by the hippo's crushing bite had caused death within moments of the attack. Emergency responders later confirmed that severe thoracic trauma and catastrophic internal bleeding had made survival impossible from the moment of the impact. The investigation revealed that Karen had violated basic safety protocols by approaching too close to the water's edge, where territorial hippos were active. Zambian wildlife authorities used the incident to reinforce education about hippo dangers, emphasizing that these animals kill more people in Africa than many other large predators. Karen's tragic death sent shockwaves through the travel blogging community, with many followers expressing disbelief that such an experienced wildlife photographer could fall victim to what appeared to be a docile animal. Her family requested privacy during their grief, while supporting efforts to educate travelers about the hidden dangers of Africa's waterways. Karen Trask's story served as a devastating reminder that Africa's most dangerous animals often hide beneath calm waters. For Zilpa Knott, it wasn't the muddy rivers of Zambia that called to her, but the pristine mangrove waterways of northern Australia, where an ancient predator waited with prehistoric patience. It was April 17, 2015, when Zilpa Knott made a decision that would cost her everything along the pristine mangrove waterways of Kakadu National Park in Australia's Northern Territory, where ancient predators lurked beneath the deceptively calm surface. The 29-year-old elementary school teacher from Brisbane had been exploring northern Australia with her husband David, a 35-year-old accountant, and their 10-year-old daughter Rachel during what was supposed to be an educational family vacation. The family had spent the morning walking along elevated boardwalks that wound through Kakadu's spectacular wetlands. Zilpa was enthusiastic about wildlife photography and had been documenting their journey through Australia's top end, capturing images of saltwater crocodiles. The viewing platform where they stopped overlooked a tidal river that flowed past ancient mangrove forests. Rangers had posted warning signs throughout the park featuring graphic images and stark warnings about saltwater crocodiles inhabiting these waterways. During During park orientation, guides had repeatedly emphasized that visitors must remain on designated boardwalks at all times, explaining that stepping near the water's edge meant entering the territory of apex predators that had remained unchanged for millions of years. The mangrove-lined river stretched before them like a mirror, its still surface betraying no hint of the prehistoric killers that patrolled these waters. David remained on the elevated platform with Rachel, taking family photos while Zilpa searched for the perfect angle. The muddy bank below appeared harmless enough, with its gentle slope leading down to the water's edge, where small fish occasionally broke the surface. Saltwater crocodiles are living dinosaurs, apex predators that have remained virtually unchanged for over millions of years. These massive reptiles can grow up to 21 feet long and weigh over 1.600 pounds, making them the largest living reptile on Earth. Zilpa stepped down the muddy bank while holding her phone outward, positioning herself for what she believed would be the perfect riverside family selfie. The soft clay squelched beneath her feet as she moved within just a few feet of the waterline. David called out from the platform above, but Zilpa remained focused on framing the shot that would capture the scenic beauty of Kakadu. A massive saltwater crocodile had been lying motionless beneath the water's surface, its prehistoric eyes monitoring the human activity above. The ancient predator had detected the vibrations of footsteps approaching the water's edge, triggering hunting instincts that had been honed over millions of years. Without warning, the crocodile exploded from the water with devastating speed, its massive jaws opening wide as it launched itself toward the unsuspecting victim. Zilpa had no time to react before the prehistoric predator's powerful jaws clamped down on her leg with bone-crushing force. The crocodile's razor-sharp teeth punctured through flesh and bone as it secured its grip, then immediately began dragging her into the deeper water. The massive reptile initiated its infamous death roll, spinning rapidly in the water while maintaining its crushing grip on Zilpa's body. The violent rolling motion caused catastrophic injuries as bones snapped and joints dislocated under the tremendous rotational forces. The crocodile's powerful tail thrashed through the water as it continued the death roll, each rotation causing additional trauma to vital organs and blood vessels. The spinning motion continued relentlessly as the crocodile dragged its victim into deeper water. Zilpa's body went limp as the combination of crushing bite wounds and the violent death roll caused massive internal bleeding and spinal injuries. The crocodile finally submerged completely with its prey, disappearing beneath the murky surface. David's screams for help brought park rangers racing to the scene, but the crocodile had already vanished into the deeper channels with Zilpa's body. Emergency responders launched an immediate search operation, but the prehistoric predator had retreated to the labyrinthine waterways. Rangers eventually recovered Zilpa's remains several kilometers downstream after an extensive search operation. The investigation confirmed that drowning combined with traumatic injuries from the death roll had caused her death within minutes of the attack. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the Australian tourism industry, with many questioning how such an experienced traveler could ignore clearly posted safety warnings. Zilpa's family requested privacy during their grief, though they later supported park efforts to educate visitors about crocodile dangers. Zilpa Knott's story served as a horrific reminder that Australia's ancient predators show no mercy to those who venture too close to their aquatic domain. For Zebby Dwalt, it wasn't the mangrove rivers of Australia that called to him, but the dusty tracks of India's tiger reserves, where the world's most magnificent predator was about to prove why it remains the ultimate apex hunter. It was November 9th, 2017, when Zebby Dwalt made a decision that would prove fatal during an early morning jeep safari in Ranthambore National Park, India, where the world's most magnificent predator roamed freely through ancient forests that had witnessed countless hunts over millennia. The 34-year-old warehouse supervisor from Detroit had traveled to India with his closest friends, Laura Chen, a 32-year-old nurse, and Matt Rivera, a 36-year-old construction foreman, on what was supposed to be the adventure of a lifetime, exploring one of of the world's premier tiger reserves. The trio had arrived in Ranthambore during peak tiger season, when the dry winter months forced these elusive cats to venture closer to water sources and dirt tracks that crisscrossed the 392-square-kilometer national park. Zebi's impulsive and adventurous personality had driven him to book this expensive safari after seeing viral videos of tiger encounters on social media, and he was determined to capture his own dramatic footage that would impress his followers back home. The early morning air was crisp as their open-top safari jeep bounced along the dusty track, with their experienced guide explaining that tigers sometimes rested near these paths during their dawn hunting patrols. The guide had briefed the group about safety protocols before entering the park, emphasizing that tigers were apex predators capable of incredible speed and power, and that visitors must remain seated in the vehicle at all times. Ranthambore's tigers had grown somewhat accustomed to safari vehicles over the decades, but they remained wild predators whose behavior could never be predicted or controlled. The morning sun filtered through the dock trees and scattered bamboo groves, creating the perfect lighting conditions for wildlife photography as their jeep navigated the network of dirt roads carved through the forest. Laura and Matt remained seated in the jeep with their cameras ready, but Zebi's competitive nature and desire for the perfect shot began to override his common sense as they approached an area where fresh tiger tracks were visible in the dust. The guide pointed out paw prints and scratch marks on nearby trees, indicating that a large male tiger had passed through the area not long before. Bengal tigers are apex predators, with adult males sometimes weighing over 500 pounds and measuring close to 10 feet in length, including the tail. Their strength allows them to bring down animals much larger than themselves, and they can reach speeds of around 35 miles per hour in short bursts. Their jaws and canine teeth are designed to grip the throat or neck of prey, while their forelimbs are powerful enough to knock large animals off their feet with a single strike. The jeep slowed along a narrow dirt track where a Bengal tiger was lying partially concealed in low brush no more than 15 yards from the road, its striped coat blending into the dry grass and shadow. The animal appeared relaxed but alert, watching the vehicle without moving as the guide quietly told everyone to remain still. Zebi stood upright in the open jeep while holding his phone outward, trying to frame the tiger in the background. The guide immediately told him to sit down, warning that sudden movement could provoke the animal, but Zebi leaned farther over the side rail to get a clearer shot. The movement drew the tiger's attention. Its head lifted, ears turning forward as it focused on the one figure no longer seated with the rest of the group. For several seconds, the animal remained still, muscles tense beneath its striped coat as it watched Zebi shift his weight outside the vehicle. Without any loud roar or warning, the tiger suddenly surged forward from the brush, covering the short distance in a powerful burst of speed. The leap was directed toward the side of the jeep, where Zebi was leaning out, the predator reacting to the closest moving target. The tiger's front paws struck the side of the vehicle and caught Zebi across the upper body, pulling him off balance and dragging him down from the open seat onto the dirt beside the track. Before he could recover, the animal was on top of him, its weight pinning him to the ground as the others shouted in panic. The tiger clamped its jaws around the side of his neck and throat, the typical killing bite used on large prey. The pressure crushed the airway and damaged major blood vessels, and the force of the impact against the ground caused severe trauma to the upper spine. Zebi stopped moving within seconds, the attack following the same instinctive pattern tigers use when subduing animals in the wild. The driver immediately accelerated the jeep forward, while the guide shouted and struck the metal frame to make noise. The sudden movement and shouting caused the tiger to release its grip and back away, retreating into the brush a few yards from the road while still watching the group. Laura and Matt screamed for help as Zebi lay motionless on the dirt track, his injuries clearly catastrophic. The guide radioed park authorities, but they were deep inside the reserve, and it took several minutes before another patrol vehicle arrived to assist them. Rangers reached the scene and confirmed that the injuries to the neck and spine were fatal, with massive blood loss and airway damage leaving no chance of survival. The area was secured while the remaining tourists were escorted out of the zone, the tiger disappearing back into the forest as quickly as it had appeared. The incident became a harsh reminder to safari operators and visitors alike that even in parks where animals are used to vehicles, the predators remain completely wild. Standing up or leaning outside the jeep removes the only barrier between human and hunter. and in rare moments like this, instinct can take over in an instant. Zebedwalt's fatal mistake showed how quickly a controlled wildlife encounter can turn into a deadly situation when basic safety rules are ignored, proving that in places like Ranthambore, the distance between fascination and danger can be only a few feet. Thanks for watching. Want to see more? Click on your screen now.